The calendar that all government and businesses use is known as the Western calendar. In 1949, Chairman Mao Zedong of the People's Republic of China announced that China would adopt this calendar. What this meant is that your grandfather could make an appointment with anyone, anywhere in the world, and both parties would be assured that they would arrive at the correct time for a given place. This was a great milestone in human development, and this event happened only about 70 years ago. Incredible. Hello, my name is Chris de Koning and I am fascinated by interesting things. This is one of a series of videos on the calendar. In this specific video, we are going to look at how various calendars developed into the Western calendar that we are using today. In the description to this video is a link to a previous video that I have made on the calendar. In the previous video, we looked at how our forefathers survived because they could predict the seasons. I start the story of the Western calendar by referring to the ancient Roman calendar. What is important is to note that whatever calendar I refer to was influenced by an even older calendar. In other words, the ancient Roman calendar, as the starting point for this video, was influenced by an even older Greek calendar, which in turn was influenced by an even older Babylonian calendar. The original Roman calendar was based on lunar cycles. A month is one orbit of the moon. This calendar came into being when Rome still had kings. According to legend, early Rome was created by two brothers called Romulus and Remus. Romulus was the first king of Rome and created the first calendar of Rome. The first 4 months were named after gods. The first month of the year was March. In Italy, which is in the Northern Hemisphere, this is the month when winter starts to dissipate, and it was a time that they could mobilize for war. The month of March is thus the start of the new year in which war could be waged, and is aptly named after the planet Mars, which was a Roman god of warfare. Just remember that in March, the Roman soldiers received their marching orders. Soon after the thaw of winter in late March, spring followed, and this was their second month, called Aprilis, which in Latin means to open, as the flower buds opened. Another interpretation is that the name for April is taken over from the Greek Aphrodite or Aphrodite, which was the Greek goddess of love. It is springtime after all. From the 5th month onward, they used appropriate numerals to name the month. For example, the 5th month is called 5 or quintilis in Latin. Decem is Latin for 10th. This calendar was inaccurate because in a solar year of 365 days, the moon orbits the earth more than 12 times, and King Romulus created only 10 months. There was a discrepancy of approximately 60 days, so they just added extra days and holidays in between to make up the year. As you can imagine, this calendar was not very successful. The calendar was improved by the second Roman king. His name was King Numa Pompilius. This calendar had 13 months. The year still began in March, when it was a good time to go to war. The first 10 months remained exactly the same as in the calendar by Romulus, but another 3 months were added at the end. The 11th month was named after the god Janus, or January. The 12th month was named February, which was a festival of springtime purification, or February. The 2 months together had 61 days. A 13th month was introduced called intercalaris, which was anywhere from being non-existent to 27 days long. There were 7 kings before the Romans revolted and created a democracy or republic. A consul or ruler ruled for a year, thus deciding on how long this year should be by misusing the intercalaris month gave considerable power to politicians and priests. After a few hundred years of messing around with the calendar due to political dictates meant that the calendar totally went out of synchronization with the real rotation of the Earth around the Sun. Something had to be done, and the person who reformed the calendar is none other than the famous Julius Caesar. In the year 45 BC, he reformed the calendar. It became known as the Julian calendar, not to be confused with the Julian day calendar. Julius Caesar based his new calendar on solar cycles, thus creating a solar calendar. In order to realign the year to a logical starting point, the previous year, 46 BC, was the longest calendar year in history. It had 445 days and was known as the Year of Confusion. You can see that he did away with the 13th or intercalaris month, where the year started at the end of winter, the month of March. Julius Caesar had the year starting in the middle of winter, in January. The order of the month remained the same, but he moved the 11th and 12th month from the end of the year and made them the first and second month at the beginning of the year. February had only 28 days. Because the solar year is not exactly 365 days long, but 365 and a quarter days, a 29th day was added to February every 4 years. The rest of the calendar is pretty much the same, except that the order of the months were out of synchronization with their names. The months whose names were numbers, such as quintilis or 5th month, now became the 7th month. That is why Decem, the 10th month, is now actually the 12th month. Just a side note, after Julius Caesar was assassinated, a month of the calendar was renamed after him. So the 7th month name was changed from Quintilis to Julius, or July as we call it today. The next emperor after Julius Caesar was Gaius Octavius. Octo means 8. He renamed the 8th month after himself. Thus Sextilis, which means 6 but became the 8th month, was renamed to the chosen name of Gaius Octavius, who was Emperor Augustus. The solar or tropical year is 365.242189 days long, with a variance of approximately 30 minutes per year. The calendar devised by Julius Caesar was 365 and a quarter days long. There's a very small difference between the calendar that Julius Caesar devised and the actual tropical year, but over a time period of nearly 1,600 years, this small difference built up to a discrepancy of approximately 10 days. This discrepancy became very problematic for the Roman Catholic Church in trying to determine the correct time to hold Easter. There were a few attempts made to reset the calendar. Initiatives were taken by Pope Julius II and by Pope Leo X, but their attempts were foiled by events such as warfare and plagues. Due to the threat of Protestantism, the Catholic Church convened the Council of Trent. One of the decisions they made was to reform the calendar. Pope Gregory XIII used the Council of Trent to convene a commission to advise him on how to implement a new calendar which required very careful study. The solution they came up with is essentially the calendar as we know it today. In 1582, most Catholic countries such as Spain, Portugal, France, Poland, Italy, and a few others adopted the Gregorian calendar, also referred to as the Christian or the Western calendar. The synchronization occurred in October 1582. A total of 10 days was deducted from the calendar in order to synchronize the old Julian calendar with the real tropical year. The last day of the Julian calendar was 4 October, a Thursday. The next day, the Friday, was changed to 15 October. This calendar was a success. All countries in the world adopted this calendar. In my opening statement, I said that the last country to adopt this calendar was China in 1949. To fill in some details, China adopted this calendar in 1912, but never managed to fully implement it until Chairman Mao Zedong re-embraced it in 1949. Previous to that, the last country to adopt the calendar was Turkey, which adopted the Western calendar in 1926. Just a side note, all the countries in the world use this calendar, which is known as the Western or Gregorian calendar, or even referred to as the Christian calendar. Please take note that this is true in the sense that the Gregorian calendar is used to synchronize the calendars of businesses and governments because it is practical. There are, however, many alternative calendars used by a variety of cultures that run concurrent to the Western calendar. The calendar with the second largest users is the Chinese lunar-based calendar, followed by the Islamic calendar. Who would ever have thought that a boring topic such as the development of the Western calendar could be so interesting? I hope that this video stimulated you and inspired you to read more on the topic. Until next time.